Okay, here we go. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's Monday. Did I get the date wrong? No, it's right. 28th of June, 2021. Wow, it's almost July. Can you believe it? Hello, everybody. Welcome. Good to see you. Please share as you come in. Thank you to the people on Facebook who share this into groups. That's incredibly helpful. And also to people who tag your friends. And on YouTube, thank you to everybody that shares this link and sends it in emails and text messages and private messages and puts the link into groups that you belong to. That is fantastic. So thank you for doing that. As you're coming in, please make sure that you actually follow and like the Facebook page, Mary Grace Media. And then also, same thing if you're on Cloud Hub, make sure that you're following channel 111, Mary Grace Media. And on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, hit the red subscribe button, and then hit the bell so that you get reminders of the show. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, if you're not on Telegram, I encourage you to get the Telegram app, or you can use it on your computer. And I would like for you to follow Mary Grace Media Official. That's where you get posts from me and articles and items that I find newsworthy. I share them on there. How's our volume? Are we doing okay right here? Looks like everybody can hear me. Let's see. Okay, now I have one little housekeeping thing that I wanted to talk about, actually, two. One is superfoods. Make sure that if you're still wanting to get superfoods from me, I want you to write to me, info@marygracemedia.com, so that you can get a promo code to save over $100 off of a 30-day supply of superfoods. It's 60 meal replacements. It's fantastic, especially for summer. It's so great. The shakes are incredibly refreshing. I've already had 2 today, and it makes up the bulk of my diet. And we're doing a transformation group starting next week. We have some live coaching from my friend and business partner, Raven, and she's incredibly knowledgeable. So if you're on Facebook, you can join that private group, and that is if you have made a purchase and if you're participating in the transformation. So that's a great opportunity, and that's something that only comes when you actually are using the superfoods. So info@marygracemedia.com if you're looking to lose weight, if you're looking for better energy, if you're looking to sleep better, if you've got aches and pains, if you have inflammation, if you're dealing with autoimmune conditions, if you're recovering from whatever it is, even things like chemo. This is a really good program. It's info@marygracemedia.com. And the other thing I wanted to mention to you is I was thinking about my YouTube channel and even my Facebook. I don't usually put a lot of descriptions, and I don't often go back and listen to my show. And I was thinking that it would be helpful if if I could have like some highlights of the show, bullet points of what it is that I go over in a show, because sometimes people ask me about things, and I go back and I say, well, I'm pretty sure I talked about that on a show, and and I never know which one it was. And so I'm looking for somebody who would be willing to volunteer, somebody that just has an organizational gift, that likes doing things like that, that is a regular listener, that would be able to bullet point the topics that I discuss on the show. And I don't think it would be that complicated, especially if you're a regular listener. And then if you were able to do that, I would want you to send it to me, and then I would upload it into the show notes. And it would be incredibly helpful for people, even me included, to go back and and then search. So somebody just asked the question if YouTube would censor it. Well, it has to do, it all depends on how we spell things. So we can get around that. But that's a good question. I think it is helpful, though, to have some uh, to have some guide, some keywords and things like that in the show notes. So if that's you, I'm incredibly organized. I just don't have the time, and that's not really my lane. That type of organization, I don't have the patience. So if again, if you're that person, if you enjoy doing that kind of thing, if you're a regular listener and you want to take part, that would be awesome if you could message me info@marygracemedia.com, and I think it would be helpful to everybody as well. And so I wanted to get that out of the way. Now, I was uh, I was really busy this weekend. Oh, Delia, that would be awesome. Yeah, just message me. I mean, if you have the time, I know people are busy, so that would be great. So I had a weekend with my dad, and then my sister came up, and we celebrated a belated Father's Day. And so I had family here the whole weekend, and it was great. We had such a good time, and I did not watch the speech on Saturday night because I had family here. And I was just listening to it today. Today was a pretty busy day because we were doing some things that I will tell you about in just a minute. And but the whole point is I've listened to about half of it. And if you don't know who I'm talking about Dad, Real 45. And he did a rally on Saturday night in Ohio, and it was I was it's funny, I've listened to a lot of speeches, and I've listened to him talk extemporaneously. I've listened to his uh, I've listened to his roundtable discussions that he's done. We watched every single briefing that he did last year during the pandemic. So I've listened to hours and hours and hours of Real 45 talking, and it never gets old. However, for some reason today, I think it's because I was just so busy, I was thinking, well, I don't know if I need to listen to this one. It's probably just kind of the same thing, and I'm just confessing to you. This is confession. That thought went through my head, and then the other side of me, Holy Spirit, said, "You need to listen to the speech." And so, so I was listening to it as I was preparing dinner, and I tell you, I just the people who don't get him are the people who aren't listening or paying attention. The people who think that they hate him, even on the conservative side, uh, they're the people who've never actually listened to what he has to say and how he says it. And I I know that the reason that 80 million plus people voted for him and are still dedicated to him is because he's every man. He is. And this is why I was making a comparison last week to the way that he talks and the way that he repeats himself and the way that he tells stories over and over. And I'm going to go back again uh, to like the old English pre uh, pre-printing press days when the bards would roam the earth and tell the stories. And one of the heroes that they told stories about was Odysseus, Ulysses in the Latin. And that was Homer, who was the author. And that was, that character was an everyman. And there are other characters throughout history who appeal to to people because they're everyman. You think about the Marlboro Man and the iconic features of that character. We have those characters throughout history, throughout literature, who are who have this universal appeal to humanity, and our president is one of those people. And that is why when he's standing on stage and talking, especially in real life, that is why he has such an appeal. That is why he draws record crowds everywhere he goes. That is why 500 media requests came in for this rally, and I think 300 were granted. Amazing. And that is why the people shout time and time again, "We love you, we love you." And it's not a worship. People, some Christians who have the religious spirit say that people are worshiping him, and that couldn't be further from the truth. People understand. They know. We know who our Savior is. That's Jesus Christ, and we know that this man was appointed for this time, and that's a difference. You can cheer and celebrate and follow and have a dedication and even a hero worship of a person. That doesn't mean that you are replacing your one and only savior with that person. You don't conflate the two. The people with the religious spirits are the ones who want to say that that's the case. It couldn't be further from the case. In fact, many people have written or told me, or I've seen in many of the groups, I've seen so many people say that they actually came back to their faith or even found God through this man and his presidency and this movement. And so the people who are trying to tell you that we're worshiping him just because we listen to his speeches, just because we go to his events, just because we follow him and listen to him online and talk about him and those kinds of things, that's just ridiculous. What happens if you are a sports fan? Does that mean that you have replaced your savior with the Dallas Cowboys just because you watch their games? Or because you like Dak Prescott? Is he your savior? Probably not. I mean, there are people out there who know all the stats of every player on every team, and nobody accuses them of worshiping those people. It's a thing, right? And so going back to what I was saying about uh, going back to what I was saying about him, the reason that he has such an appeal is that he is everyman. He's you, he's me, uh he's the mechanic, he's the dishwasher, he's the waiter, he's the bartender, he's the nurse, the doctor, the golf pro. He's all of those people. He's the Wall Street executive, he's the mega millionaire, he is the rapper, he is the rock star. He's all of those things. He can talk to all of those people. And it's amazing that he can do that. He can go from a multi-million dollar, multi-billion dollar negotiation table, uh, and he can go from that to a round table with ex-felons and have equally insightful and meaningful conversations. And he knows so much about so many topics, and I've seen this over and over again. And that is just such an incredibly rare quality. And so I think that whether you like him or not, whether you agree with him on everything or not, whether you subscribe to his policies, I think that if you are at all intellectually honest, and if you have any integrity or moral fiber, you are going to take a closer look at what he's about and who he is and why it is that he has such an appeal to the people. And you're going to take a step back from this narrative that that he is inciting insurrection, that he is a leader of some crazy white supremacist cult or anything like that, because that just couldn't be further from the truth. And so if you are willing, if you're a journalist, if you are a person who subscribes to different political ideals or moral ideals or whatever it is, if you have any integrity at all, I'm challenging you to take a look at this person on face value, because there really is so much there. And there's so much more substance than there is to so many of the people that all of us on every side of the aisle has put on a pedestal. And so that is something that I think is going to become more and more clear and that people are going to be more aware of. And I think one of the things that people who switch parties often say is that they didn't have any idea who he really was, and that when they got to know him either through a personal meeting or being involved in a group meeting like a round table or a conference or even just through watching his speeches, that their impression of him that they had had prior to that is just completely turned around. And so I think that it's happening more and more, and obviously this isn't the last we're seeing of him, and I'm excited about that. It's to me, this is a new era that is getting launched with these rallies. He's doing one on July 3rd, which is very exciting, and he's not going to stop. And I believe this also uh, it signifies a few things. One is that we, the people, the our movement is on the offensive, that we are pushing, 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 that we are initiating the winning. And I think it also indicates that we know who is in charge of the Republican Party and who is positioning more and more publicly to show the world that he is in charge. He's large and in charge. And if you see the statements that he's put out recently, he's just absolutely torching the rhinos, and he's not holding back on any of it. And he doesn't have to, because he doesn't hold political office right now, and he doesn't have to censor his words. And what I see happening right now is the equivalent, the analogy that it's not even an analogy. It harkens back to a meme that is going around the internet. I don't have it pulled up right now, but it's a scene from a gathering where he was present with a lot of very high powered people. And he walks into the room, and you see him elbowing all these power players out of the way. And it's obvious who the apex predator in the room is. It's him. And when he gets through this sea of people, he elbows them out of the way, and then he tugs on his jacket lapel, and obviously he's exerting his dominance. And this is something that I see happening right now. uh, it's happening very much right in front of your eyes, and they're scared. We know they're scared, and there's nothing they can do about it. And the best thing about this, even though it's painful to watch, it's painful to see people that you thought you could support, you thought had your back. It's painful to see them being exposed. However, on the Republican side, it's absolutely essential that we it's absolutely essential that we see who these people for who they really are, and that we have this time for him to emerge as the true leader of this movement. And that's what's happening. Without question, every single person that he endorses for office is going to primary their opponent. That's almost certainly a given. And the people who are running these Republican committees around the country, the rhinos that have been against him, that are pushing you to just move on and look to the next step and the next midterm, those people are not on our side. And he's making it extremely clear that that's the case. And so it's fun to watch. And I encourage people to continue watching and listening, and make sure that you're following his statements that he puts out. We try to share them to Mary Grace Media Telegram. It's Mary Grace Media Official on Telegram. We try to share them to that page as often as we can. They're also posted on the official George News Telegram. And he does put them on his site, but they seem to get up on the George News Telegram page pretty quickly. And that is a verified account, so you know that uh, when the um, when the messages get up on there, that they're official. So don't miss out, because we're in an amazing time in history. And I've been telling you I've been telling you that there are things out there that are meant to distract you. And of course, one of them is the Jabberwocky and the side effects. And I'm not saying that people should not be active and actively resisting that and doing their part to make sure that this doesn't happen again. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying keep your eyes on the prize and make sure that you're majoring on the absolute major event, which is the all of the audits that are taking place and the grassroots activism that's happening at the state level, and then also paying attention to Real 45 and what it is that he's actually doing. This is a critical time, so it is important, and I am urging you not to get bogged down, not to get in the weeds about things. Be careful about allowing yourself to agree with projected outcomes that don't reflect the will of God for our nation. For example, people who might be telling you that we're going to have X amount of deaths in a certain time. Well, God is the author of life, and He is the one who numbers our days. And so, for as an example, I may hear those things from people who have a scientific or educated opinion about them, and they're educated to make those kinds of conjectures. That doesn't mean that I have to agree with them. Do you see the difference? Um, that doesn't mean that I have to agree with them. I I can politely reject that declaration of death over our country and over the people that have had the Jabberwocky. And so I really want to urge you to partner with life, partner with truth. Um, that is what I want to that is what I want to urge you to do. And your words carry weight. Your words have the power of life and death. And when you speak in agreement with a declaration of death over innocent people, that, in my opinion, that is playing into the hands of the enemy of our souls, the devil himself. Keep that in mind, okay? Let me just look through the chat here. There's been a lot of back and forth happening. I think you guys got that sorted out when I talked about a religious spirit. I think you figured that out, so I don't need to touch it. Does everyone know what a religious spirit is? It's a Pharisee spirit. It's the people. It's the busybodies that that censured Jesus, tried to censor him and try to control him and tell him, you don't heal on Sundays, you don't heal on the Sabbath, Saturday or Sunday or whatever day that uh, you are um, observing. And that's what that is. That is the people that try to tell you how they're hyper religious. Okay, and so that's good that this question came up in the chat because not everybody knows what that means. It's not a good thing. When I talk about religion, I'm talking about a rigid and didactic approach to Christianity or any faith. It's not a good thing. It's not a compliment when you say that someone has a religious spirit. So just be aware of that. It's the same thing as the political spirit, and these are actually both these are these are both manifestations of the Jezebel spirit, which exists. It's an antichrist spirit. It exists to kill the prophets and to quench any partnership with the goodness and the life giving attributes of God. Don't apologize. That was actually good that that came up. All right. Robert Solomon is telling us that Shabbat law, Jewish law, says that saving lives precedes Shabbat observance. So there you go. But the Pharisees and the Sadducees were trying to catch Jesus out on that particular aspect of the law when he was healing somebody on the Sabbath. All right. Now, let me go back. Robert had a comment here. He said, Brian Cates tells us Trump has to diss on Barr and Durham so the investigation won't end up destroyed like what happened to Ken Starr. That's possible. I haven't read Brian's column today, so I'm not going to go deeply into the statements that the president just made about Barr. One of the things that I do find disturbing is the extent to which Mitch McConnell has had so much control over the Republican Party. And I mean, there are times when I think he's doing the right thing, and there are times when I think that he's absolutely a deep state snake and that he's in cahoots with the Democrats 100%. It just goes back and forth. But the president is saying that he is not going to endorse him again. So yeah, Millie points out that Real 45 is really good at at misdirection, and a lot of the statements that he's putting out right now, I believe, are intended for that. That's part of the tactic that he's using. And so one of the things, of course, that is important, and if you read between the lines during his speech, is that he is continually emphasizing that we pay attention to grassroots activism and the audits that are happening on the individual states. And he's laying out the entire case for the theft and for the crimes that were committed from November 3rd onward, actually probably before that. And remember I told you this. I told you that his speeches and his monologues are intended for the normies. Normies is an expression that I use and I will continue to use. It has to do with people who are just waking up, who haven't woken up yet, who like him even, who maybe voted for him, but they're they see about 5% of the picture. They see things from a very glossed over, sanitized viewpoint, and they haven't ever really taken deep dives for one reason or the other into the reality of the truth of what's going on. And his speeches are for a lot of those people, and that's a good thing because he needs to continue getting the story out time and time and time again because he's censored. He said even during the speech the other day when he started talking about that particular topic that the news networks started turning off their cameras and they don't want to go there. And that's why it's so important for him to go over these topics and to reiterate his accomplishments and to say what is the same thing over and over again. He does repeat himself. He's not senile. He's repeating himself because that's part of his tactic for communication. And remember, when he goes into a city in any state, the people on the ground who are working these events, they're not necessarily supporters. These are people who are showing up for a job. And these are people who are working the in the hospitality industry, in the event industry. They're contract workers. They're there to set up a stage. They're in some cases the people who work in the studios, the grips, the lighting, the camera people. Those people have a tendency to be more conservative, and he is laying out the information for people who don't spend all of their time listening to his speeches or to listening to alternative media. And so that's important to understand. Don't get mad at him for saying the same things over and over and for repeating himself. That's intentional. It's part of the plan to get the message out far and wide. So keep that in mind. And if you're going to watch his speeches, if you're going to watch every single one, you can expect a certain amount of repetition. However, you can also expect some nuggets for the anons. You can expect some nuggets for those people who've been awake and who have taken deeper dives and who understand the bigger picture to an extent. I would say about 5% is little nuggets and truth bombs, and in some cases, uh, marching orders. And I would say the other 95% is for the normies. And that's great. That's how he's getting his message out. And obviously there are some things about his speeches that anons will want to decode. And there were some obvious things the other day. He did his speech in Ohio, which is the 17th state. That's just interesting. And then he also said he'd been to DC 17 times. I don't know about you, but I don't know specifically how many times I've been to a specific city once I pass a certain amount of times. If you've only been once, then it's easy to say I've only been there once. If you've been there twice, same thing. However, 17, specifically 17 times. I'd only been there 17 times. Next thing you know, I'm president. When he drops little things like that, when he repeats things, that is a sign. He's talking to you. He's talking to the anons. He's talking to the people who have a deeper understanding of the bigger picture that's going on, and that is one of his. Tactics that he uses, and it's brilliant. And he really is incredibly high IQ. He's an incredible tactician. Some of you know that, some of you don't, and you don't have to agree with me. But again, if you go and start listening, if you start listening to his speeches and you see the patterns and you even see his techniques in delivering a speech, it's nothing short of brilliant. The people who speak in front of live audiences, public speakers, motivational speakers, pastors, things like that, they will tell you it's not easy to do what he does. And if you have any doubt, just listen to the other people that come up on stage, and almost instantly the crowd turns them off because they're just boring and they sound like politicians. And this is what I mean when I say that he is the everyman. That he goes up there and he just tells it like it is. He doesn't play around, and he uses a little bit of profanity sometimes. He says, he says everything that we're thinking. He talks about the real generals versus the woke generals. He was saying, he refers to the fake administration as though as these people. He doesn't even afford them the respect of the office that they've usurped. And you notice he never calls the Faker 46 by the title that they're giving him. He never gives him that title because it's a stolen title. And he doesn't, he will never call him that because we know who the rightful president is, and it's not him. Um, and so he really has a brilliance that people are missing out on because Orange Man bad. That's all they can see. And they refuse to listen to him. It really is just amazing. And he goes off script. He ad libs. He does things that are incredibly hard. His body language is amazing. His word choice, all of it comes into play. And I mean, he really is incredibly funny. I wrote down one of his lines. This was really funny. He was talking about the State of the Union and how he listened to it, and he said it was really weird. And then he said, "This is so funny." He said Nancy Pelosi had the single largest mask I've ever seen on a human being. That's funny. And the reason that we love him is because no politician ever says things like that. That's him. He's the OG. There are people who are coming out now who are starting to try to imitate him. For example, Ron DeSantis. He is the master. He is the original, and that is why people love him. I mean, that's really funny that he said that about her, and he notices those things too. He's noticing, like, he's saying the quiet part out loud, basically. He's noticing the things that you and I notice, and he's saying it out loud, and that's what makes him the everyman. He's not sitting up there trying to pontificate and filtering his words through the politically correct filter. He's just saying it, And that's why the people love him. That's the kind of thing that a bunch of guys or gals would say sitting around, at work, at lunch, on break. That's exactly what you would say to your friends. And that is why he is so loved. That's it. That's why he's loved. Okay. Anything else about him? Does anybody else want to say um, anything else? The big mask doesn't protect her crazy. It shines brightly. That's for sure. Exactly. His timing is impeccable. I agree with that. Yep. Uh, he says what we're all thinking. He does. I mean, he's sitting out there. He's like, it's windy as hell up here. I brought this hat just in case. Who says that? What politician talks like that? But that's a real. That's the kind of thing your grandpa would say or your dad. And he knows how to filter the right things for the right time. He is really funny, and his timing is great. And so, let's see. Um, so I wanted to give you an update. I was talking last week. About some issues that I was having with some just crazy stuff here at the house. So, my dad's a veteran, and he was. I was trying to call and get him some appointments. I was trying to get him a checkup. I was trying to get him an appointment at the VA, so that he could get his hearing aids checked. We've been to the hearing guy at Sam's Club so many times. The guy has cleaned him out. He's done all that stuff, and that still hasn't helped. And so, sorry. So he keeps asking me, and I've called the VA. I talked about this on the show last week. They have a phone queue, and every time you get up to the front of the queue, they say you're next in line, and then when you get ready and you think they're going to answer your call, click, it hangs up on you. It's so frustrating. And then I tried to sign up on the I tried to set up on the eVet portal, and it wasn't working. And I was really frustrated, and people were giving me suggestions, and I decided to go ahead and call my local rep. I called my state delegate, and then they referred me. They put a call in to Bob Good's office. He's our congressman in my district, and I got a call back that day from a rep from his veterans liaison in that office. That's not his official title, but the person that I talked to, he left a message on Friday, and I talked to him today, and he was fantastic. So timely. Just, I want to give kudos to Bob Good's office. This is a congressman whose staff is actually working in spite of the fact that so many government officials are using the pandemic as an excuse not to work. And so I just want to give a kudos and a shout out to the staff from Bob Good's office. And that is what they're supposed to do. They're elected to represent the interests of the people. And he recommended that the gentleman that I talked to recommended that I go down personally and walk in and try to get my dad an appointment, even though it says on their phone thing that no walk-ins are allowed. And we decided to do that. We drove down there. We didn't know if they were going to let us in, and they did. They got us. We walked in without masks. I tell you, this building is in a branch of the hospital, and when you walk in this building, you would think that the pandemic never ended. It was scary. All the signs, wear a mask, distance. I was like, really? We're done with this. It's over. And so of course we saunter in. There's people sitting all over everywhere with the mask on. We're like, oh, yeah, I don't even have one anymore. And so we walk in, we get in the elevator, we're close to somebody, we're breaking all the rules. And we walked in, and you can't get through the door without checking in. And the very first thing she does is try to give us a mask. And then I said, we just want to make an appointment and all of that. And so we get in there, and I asked for these face shields that were sitting over on the other side of the room. She gives us those. They don't even work. all that to say, we got in there. We never actually put anything on our faces, but we got up to the window, and the lady there was really nice. She set up the appointments for him. He got a checkup scheduled. He got a hearing checkup scheduled, and so that worked. And then we actually talked to another individual who is going to help us. He's going to help us get set up on the eVet portal. He said that's pretty tricky. And then we talked to him about the phone system, and he said he's aware of it. I said it's been happening for about a year, and I think that based on what he was telling me, it's out of his hands. He doesn't have power over it. So this is something that I'm going to be pursuing with our state rep, because it is unacceptable that a veteran in this country cannot get through on the phone to their VA clinic to schedule an appointment, and cannot even get through online. That's totally unacceptable. And that is, it's unacceptable that we had to take an hour out of our day to drive across town to go walk into the VA clinic just to set up appointments for him for next month. That's not okay. And so I'm going to be pursuing that. Now, somebody asked if Real 45's picture was on the wall in the VA. I did not see his picture. This is a small clinic. I saw the local director picture, but they didn't have a picture of Faker 46 either. So it could be that this specific clinic out in that part of the waiting room just doesn't put up the picture of the commander in chief, period. And so I can't give you a definitive answer yet. When we go back for the appointment, I will I'll look around, certainly. And yeah, so we got in, and nobody said anything to us at all about the mask. And I actually asked the lady behind the glass to pull her mask down to talk to my dad, and she did. So that was nice. Now, there is a little funny thing that came out of this. My dad was in the Air Force. And so when we left, one of the things that happened with the lady that made the appointment, she she was having a little bit of a hard time keeping track of the dates. It wasn't like, I wasn't quite sure until she printed everything out that she was really completely on top of it. Okay. And I mean, maybe she was just having like a afternoon brain fog, or there was something going on. Maybe, who knows? But I mean, wearing a mask, your brain isn't functioning properly. But she was just a little bit challenged. And so when we left and I was in the car with my dad, I commented on that because he had the appointment sheet. I said, for a minute there, I was a little bit concerned that it wasn't going to all get in and that she was having trouble with it. And so, mind you, he was in the Air Force. This is what he said. He goes, she was probably in the Army. I just thought that was funny. Um, for those of you in the military. Yeah, she might have been a volunteer. Um, but I just thought it was really funny. Uh, my parents had a decent experience with the VA in the past, but what we're seeing since the pandemic is that everything is broken, and that they're not no nobody's trying to fix anything and to get it to work. And I said to them, I said, this should not be happening to veterans. Veterans should not be put on hold indefinitely and then get a hang up right at the moment that they think a person is going to talk to them. I mean, this is crazy. Uh, so, of course, I have to make sure that can somebody explain to Linda the joke? The branches always diss on each other. Okay, that's why he was saying that. So the whole thing is broken, but I I just it's very upsetting to me that anybody has to go that anybody has to go all the way down to the VA, and that a lot of people think they can't, because when you call, the very first thing it says, um, the very first thing it says is that they won't take any walk-ins. And so you're intimidated if you actually want to follow the rules. You're intimidated from even driving down there. Plus, the distance for us is that I didn't want to drag my dad out and drive all the way down there and then be given a really hard time and turned away because of their rule about walk-ins. So imagine if you're a veteran and you're hurting and you're in trouble and you need an appointment and you can't get through this phone tree, and then you're told absolutely no walk-ins, and you feel like, okay, I've served my country and I don't even have a way to get an appointment. And I already know it's going to take a while when I even get the appointment, when I get through to somebody to schedule an appointment. So it's a big problem. So I'm going to be pursuing this with my congressman's office and try to get this fixed so that people can get on the phone. Now, the other thing was that there were only two people in that office today. There was the guy that was trying to help us get on the eVet portal, and then there was the receptionist who was making the appointments. That was on a Monday morning, uh, a week before a holiday, and they're closed on the weekends. This is a satellite clinic, so that's a problem, and I can't take my dad an hour away to to go to an appointment. I certainly can't drive him an hour and a half actually, to see if we can even make an appointment. And a lot of veterans are in this situation. Okay. Now, so that's where we are with that. And I wanted to thank you for the people that gave us the advice. Somebody did say to run it up the flagpole, and I figured my congressman's office was a good place to start because they do have veterans advocates in in the district office here. And so, okay, Sylvia Sue said, I read yesterday that there are 2 million vets trying to make an appointment. I, um, I believe it. I believe that based on the experience we've had. And he hasn't been there in, I would say, 18 months now because of the pandemic. And so of course, my next concern is that we're going to go in and his doctor is going to say, um, you need to get the Jabberwocky. And that's a big concern. And I'm hoping that I can get on the eVet portal and write to the doctor ahead of time and say, under no circumstances are we participating in an experimental uh, procedure. If it were FDA approved, possibly, but not even then would we strongly consider it because he doesn't need it. He's already on a prophylaxis. And so that is something that I will be extremely vigilant about. Don't worry. I know they're going to do the pressure, and he and I have talked about it to some extent. And but I also know that because he's a military man, he's used to taking orders, and unfortunately, a doctor is in a position of authority, and so um, because of all of the other jabs that he's taken in his life while in the military, to him, it's just one more thing. It's like, okay, you're having your physical. We're going to do this, this, and this today. Um, so, uh, so that is an issue, and so we're just going to have to pray. I'm going to have to really just send all of our angels ahead to put pressure and influence, to send the host ahead to put pressure and influence on these people. And that's one update. Now the other update, remember I told you that we weren't getting our mail, and I had to go out and tell the driver where to put the packages, even though we have a door that's incredibly obvious and easy to get to. The latest thing is that they just haven't been bringing the mail, and I thought it was just us. And then there was a big article in the paper the other day that said our whole area is having problems, and that there were people on the Nosy Neighbor, also known as the Nextdoor app, who were reporting that their neighborhoods hadn't received any mail in over a week. And what is happening here is that the what's happening here is that there's no workers. They had a job fair, and I think they had 9 people show up. And the post office pays, I think, $18 or $19 an hour, and they can't get they can't get anybody to come and even apply for jobs at the post office. I mean, it's crazy. And the guy that's delivering our mail is the same guy that was delivering the packages, the one that I had to walk to the front door and explain, this is our door and this is where we want the packages put. Only here, not in the middle of the carport. And so um, it is uh, Delia is right. You can't leave him alone with medical staff. They'll try and talk him into it. I know that that's something that I am going to be vigilant about. I think he'll let me come in. I mean, obviously, for certain parts of the exam, that's not going to be easy. But, since they're talking about, since they're doing phone exams and things like that, I'm just going to say, let's just do the part of the exam that we can with me in the room. Okay, but let me go back to the post office thing. What's happening is that there are so few workers and even so few applicants that they're having entire neighborhoods that aren't getting the mail. And the people that were in line at the post office were the people that were in line at the post office. A lot of them were there for exactly the same reason. And it's funny because someone was actually uh, someone was from my neighborhood, from down the street behind me in line at the main post office. And it just, I mean, it's insane. It's crazy. Christina is saying they won't let anyone in lately. Well, I'm his advocate. I'm his power of attorney. So they haven't encountered me yet, Christina. That's just how it goes. I'm going to be there. There's no way I'm dropping him off. Uh, okay. Now, let me just look at your comments here. Lauren had an interesting comment about the Jabberwocky. He said that even at work, I've noticed a huge slowdown in brain function with my Jabberwocky coworkers. Huge. They're just not like before. That's scary. Yeah, we don't need to do that because I've had a reversal. I mean, I've seen some great improvements with my dad's brain function because of the supplements that I've had him on. I've had him on a couple of our superfood products that have been helping him tremendously. Delia, yes, I am his ears. Exactly. Um, so anyway, yeah, there's no way with my dad that that they're gonna get away with anything. The same thing with my mom. I mean, they're barking up the wrong tree if they think they're gonna grab him and get him isolated out of away from my attention. That's just not gonna happen. And yeah, not gonna happen. So the same thing with my mom. When she was a patient, there was just I'm the person that the slackers hate to see coming because they're not going to get away with anything. It's not going to happen. Okay, now let's see. Any other comments here? I wanted to give you guys an update on that. I wanted to give you an update so that you could kind of see what's going on. Pat says, Mary Grace, if you have to step out, leave your phone recording audio in the room. That is such a good idea. I might even bring the iPad and leave it in there. Good idea. All right. I don't think regular doctor offices give the Jabberwocky. Yeah, but the VA has them. The VA, I think they have them right there. Daughter bear, yeah. I'm like the mama bear, only the daughter. Exactly. Um, I mean, I got us through the checkpoint with no face diaper. I'm serious. They had signs everywhere, and they have people sitting in between plastic boxes. You can't even sit next to somebody. There was plastic everywhere. It really, it's like they're stuck in last year. How many days is it, Delia? How many days are we into this 15 days? Um, Yeah, 15 days happened a long time ago. All the signs and the way they're acting in this clinic and in the whole building is like it just started. Like this is the beginning of the pandemic. It's crazy. Um, Absolutely crazy. Okay, let's see. Now, anything else? Oh, let me check my notes. Checks notes. Let me see. Checks notes. Somebody on YouTube says we FaceTimed with my dad's appointment and when they refused to let my sister in. Okay. 466 days since we gave them 15. Since they asked us for 15 days. We're 466 days into the big lie. Uh, there's a big push to get 70% Jabberwockied by next week. We had roaming freelance jabbers in the neighborhood. That's Lauren who's saying that. They're trying to ramp up the fear again. Oh, yeah, the COVID variant. Stop. Just stop. It's over. Uh, okay. Yeah, it's over. 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 Now, let me see what I have here in my notes. Um, Oh, one of my friends put an interesting letter up on Facebook. I wanted to read you this. I've alluded to this before. I talked about the fact that the inflation that's taking place is actually worse than a tax hike. And I wanted to give you a real world example. So this person says an open letter to Faker 46. He used the name, but I'm not. This is what they said. I thought it was really good. I know there's no variation of the Rona, but yeah. Um, okay. I was reading your comments. Here we go. So he says, thank you, Mr. Faker 46, for blowing our fixed income budget in just 6 months. You have done more damage to the middle class families than dreamed possible. When you took office, gas was 209. Now, in just 6 months of your idiotic policies, it is 319. That's $40 more a month out of our pocket. And groceries are way up. For example, the thick cut bacon we buy was $17 when you took office. Now it's 21. I'm assuming that's a big pack at Sam's. Considering all the other groceries going up on your watch, our monthly grocery outlay has gone up by about $50 since you took office. Other essentials have gone way up too. I estimate our monthly budget has gone up over $150 in your 6 months in office. Scary to think that you have 3.5 more years with your track record so far. We will not be able to afford to eat or go anywhere. Mr. Faker 46, you may be rich and not affected by this, but the rest of us normal folks are shaking in our boots. And I didn't even mention the national security issues you've totally screwed up, like instantly going from energy independence to allowing the Middle East to hold us for hostage for oil, allowing anyone and everyone to come here illegally without monitoring who they are, if they could have COVID or maybe terrorist or criminal intentions. Instead, bringing business back into the country, instead of bringing business back into the country, you're encouraging them to go to the Central American companies. Very intelligent. Way to go, Figure 46. So the financial part, this is something that I talked about at the very beginning. And that is that without even signing any legislation, they have forced a tax hike on the poor and the middle class. It doesn't affect the wallets of the upper middle class because those people are going to say, uh, those people are going to, it's not going to affect them. They're not going to be sweating over an extra $150 a month out of their budget. Let's face it. And this is a very real situation. It's a very real problem that is being largely ignored because it's showing up in the budget, but it's not showing up. It's not an official tax hike. And so that's just something to be aware of, and I wanted to point that out because I think it's definitely worth being aware of, and it's something that to point out when you are involved in conversations with people who are so in love with 46. Um, he really has not done any favors to the middle class, to the poor and middle class, and he was supposed to be so good for them, right? Um, all right. Now, I want to check your comments one more time, and then I'm going to sign off here. I will be back Wednesday at 5:30 Eastern, and let's see. Yeah, speaking, somebody said they're a caregiver. I watch my brother. I go everywhere to take my brother. I'm a hawk. Exactly. Yeah. If there's any case, if there's any way, uh, if you have a family member that is getting medical treatment, that's seeking medical treatment, it's super important that they have an advocate. I mean, even people who are cognitively just fine. Something happens when people go into a doctor's office. It's white coat syndrome or whatever it is. They sort of lose their train of thought, and it's easy to lose track of what's going on. I think they put you in those windowless rooms for no reason, and it's so that you get disoriented, for example, and so I think it's really important that everybody, every patient, especially anybody who's going through surgery or any kind of procedure or hospitalization, have an advocate, somebody that's willing to fight for them hard and not to back down. And so I just urge you, if you have a parent that is alone or parents that are alone, make sure that you or someone that you trust is helping them. Even with the mail, even with phone calls, because, like, for example, when I was on vacation, I got a phone call from my dad, and he said, "We got a letter that I thought you should see, and it's about our home warranty." And again, he's 83. So when, you know, you have home insurance, you have your car warranty, things like that. And I think there is something such as a home warranty. But he was really worried because it was an official looking letter, and it looked like a bill. It looked like we were behind on something. And it was one of those things where it was kind of scary. And it was a sales letter, but to him, because I've been handling the bills and I try to show him everything, but this could have been something that, we did back when before my mom passed. He didn't really know. And so he was worried. And so he called me, on my vacation to talk to me about it. And it took a little while for me to reassure him and to just to get him to see that I it could wait. And then when I got home, it was sitting right on the table. That was the first thing he talked to me about. And that's the kind of thing. So be aware that's a scam that's going around. It's like the car warranty people that call you and tell you that your warranty's run out. This is the home warranty. And the mailings that they send out are so clever. It really makes it sound like you have to pick up the phone and call right now or something really bad is going to happen. And one of the biggest fears that a senior has is what? Losing their home, losing their home. And when you get a letter like that, that has to do that makes you think that you could lose your home because of or an expired warranty. Think about that. That's that's how they do it. And it's just it's not good. So be aware of that. Be careful. Even with the phone. It's funny. He's pretty good about letting the phone go to voicemail. Um, and then I'll check it. But there's just so many scammers. Um, Vicky says the older generation is so vulnerable. My mom would talk with anyone who called. She passed in 2018. I'm thankful she's with the Lord instead of this nonsense. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the scammers are getting worse and worse. But I did want to alert you to that because that's something that I think it was a good one. It was really well written. And just be aware for your parents, for your relatives that might get something like that. And tell them to be aware of it. It could be a phone call, it could be a letter. And so there's no such thing as an expired home warranty. That doesn't exist. Uh okay. Now, I'm gonna sign off. Don't forget, send me an email if you want to get a voucher to save over $100 off your superfoods. And it's info@marygracemedia.com. We have the world's best organic green superfoods delivered directly to your door. It's one of the easiest programs I've ever done. People have been able to lose weight. People have been able to get rid of inflammation, joint pain, lots of chronic issues that have been plaguing them uh, for for a long time. I get incredible testimonials about how it's helped people. So send me an email, info@marygracemedia.com. Thank you, Linda, for posting that in the chat on YouTube. Now, I want to go back and read this comment. Let me see. All right, I think we're good. Okay, I'll be back on Wednesday at 5:30 Eastern. Make sure that you like this channel, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. Please make sure that you share on Facebook into groups and tag your friends. And please make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell and come back on Wednesday. Follow me on Cloud Hub channel 111 as well. And as a professional driver, Lauren says superfoods are amazing. It's awesome, isn't it? It gets you through the day. That's for sure. It makes life so much easier. If you have a busy life, if you're on the go a lot and you want to stay healthy and you want to keep your brain functioning and not get those afternoon cravings and brain fog, this is fantastic. It's not just for weight loss. All right, I will be back on Wednesday. And I appreciate all of your comments. I appreciate everybody being respectful in the chat. We didn't have any trolls today, so that was, I guess, a good thing. And make sure you come back when you come back to watch the replay that you leave a comment on the replay so that the broadcast shows up into other people's feeds. That's very helpful when you do that. It helps the algorithm. So come back after the fact, leave a comment, say hi, stop by, share it, and we'll be back. Thanks everybody for sharing and for being here. Have a great evening.